It almost is disappointing in myself how unnatural it felt to be so playful, right? Because we use our kids as that green light, kind of like it's okay and acceptable in this context to be playful because I'm playing with my child. But if I'm being silly with adults, then that's kind of weird, and like, rocking around like a monkey, or like, all these like very exaggerated things that we're doing. But then you're like, no, this is fun. Like, I'm allowed to be light and playful, and I don't have to take everything so seriously. But it made me realize how seriously I take myself, and I never would have kind of labeled myself as one of those people.
Well, I mean, heard, and like you were 5 minutes in to your very first time ever doing it with a total stranger, and you did an amazing job. Like, you really played full out and you committed. If you did it a second time, it might be,
Way
50% easier. If you did a third time, it might be another 50% easier. So it's like, we do it for the sake of doing it, not to be good at it.
So with purging, is there a reason that we do it out loud in front of each other and kind of challenge ourselves to be uncomfortable in that process, versus is energy all the same, and can you kind of just do that energy work on yourself and remove it? Or does that take a certain level of experience that most people just don't have?
I think that there's power in being witnessed. Just like that's why therapy is a thing. It's why we relate to other humans. Like, we are communal beings by nature. So there is power in that. And I think because it's so antithetical to the way that we've been socialized and conditioned to just like, shh, don't cry, have a bottle, shh, don't cry, have a toy, shh, don't cry, have an iPad, have some pills, have some Facebook, have some booze, have some anything but feel. Right. And that's what most of us have grown up in. And even in some cultures, much more so than other cultures. And so to be witnessed and to be given permission to actually just like let it rip, to just be seen, even if none of it's true, to be seen and witnessed in that there is power. Because I really believe that trauma witnessed in community can be transmuted. Right? Like vulnerability plus safety can equal trauma healing. Vulnerability plus fear can equal re-traumatization. And I'm just going to say it again because it's I think a really simple but powerful concept. That like, if you have trauma and you're looking to heal it, if you make yourself vulnerable from a place of safety, meaning you personally feel resourced, you feel safe in the community, that can lead to healing. If you're trying to transmute trauma and you make yourself vulnerable, but you do not feel safe, that can lead to re-traumatization. And so it's really important that if you're going to do this work of, a therapist or any sort of somatic processing or even pleasure work, that you're doing it from a place of, I feel resourced, I feel safe, because inevitably like old traumas are going to come up and because they want to be healed. But if that's done in a place of safety, it can really transmute. So I think it's helpful to do it in community, but not necessary. So you could absolutely just move this stuff on your own and just put on like however you're feeling that day. If it's sad, jealous, raging, you just put on a song that allows you to really turn up the volume on that. And then see like, how am I feeling now? Another song. And then usually you're like a hollow bone at that point. There's like an empty vessel that is created, and nature does not like a vacuum. So then we get to choose what we put into the vessel. So then you could put on your favorite song or your silliest song or your sexiest song and move through that.
No, that makes a lot of sense. So when I do a lot of work, and this even happened last night, although the dream's not coming to me, is I tend to get the most realistic and trippy dreams after I do any kind of like trauma work or forgiveness work, or even yesterday, because we incorporated some of that purging, and then we did like the bliss and like pleasure prayer. It's almost like an extraction that will happen in a dream. And one of my craziest ones, which is why I found it so interesting that you used snakes in your visualization and in the practice. I don't know what work I was doing at the time, but the dream was I woke up and there was a snake coming out of me, and I grabbed it and had to yank it out. But it was so...
This was last night?
No. This was no. This was in the past, which is why when we were doing it, I was like, okay, I'm just gonna do it, because I immediately kind of had like a little resistance to that because of that. But I like yanked it out, and it was so real that I looked in the bed because I felt every part. Like I felt the scales and the coldness, and I felt it like wiggling, and it was so gross in my I was like, there is a snake in my bed, and I just pulled it out of me, and I don't know how it got there. And I talked to my shaman about it, and he's like, oh, you just like did your own extraction of sorts, and like you don't really need to know what it means. You just have to trust your subconscious got rid of something. So when we were doing that and we were visualizing the snakes kind of going up through our chakras, I was like, oh boy, okay, we're gonna do this. We're gonna see what happens.
And how was it for you? Like, did it feel
It felt great.
traumatizing,
No,
or
no,
you
no.
enjoyed it?
No, I enjoyed it. It felt like it just felt like very sensual, and it felt, I guess, like this is maybe gonna sound like TMI, but I guess we're going there anyways. Like it's like that very full feeling of when you get penetrated. Like it's a very pleasurable experience. So like that was kind of how I incorporated it, was like that full penetration, like that like the very enjoyable feeling of penetration. So it wasn't traumatizing or weird, but I was like, this is interesting that she is telling me snakes.
Yeah.
That was the first thing I thought.